Welcome to a lecture session on tourism. Today we will be taking up for discussion visas. What is a visa? Visa is an endorsement on a passport indicating that the holder is allowed to enter, leave or stay for a specific period of time in a country. You may ask, when I already have a passport, why do I need a visa? A passport is only a document that certifies the identity and nationality of its holder for the purpose of international travel. Holding a passport does not entitle a person to enter another country. To enter another country, you need an authorization which may be a document, but more commonly it is a stamp endorsed in the applicant's passport. In this module, we are going to discuss history and purpose of visa, conditions of issue, types and methods of visa, entry and duration period, visa extensions, refusals and exemptions, common visas and exit visas.
History and purpose of visa. The word visa is derived from the Latin phrase charta visa, which means paper that has been seen. It is a document showing that a person is authorized to enter the territory for which it was issued, subject to permission of an immigration official at the time of actual entry. The authorization may be a document, but more commonly it is a stamp endorsed in the applicant's passport. Some countries do not require a visa in some situations, such as a result of reciprocal treaty arrangements. The country issuing the visa typically attaches various conditions of stay, such as the territory covered by the visa, dates of validity, period of stay, whether the visa is valid for more than one visit, etc. A visa generally gives non-citizens clearance to enter a country and to remain there within specified constraints, such as a time frame for entry, a limit on the time spent in the country, and a prohibition against employment. The possession of a visa is not in itself a guarantee of entry into the country that issued it, and a visa can be revoked at any time. A visa application in advance of arrival gives the country a chance to consider the applicant's circumstance, such as financial security, reason for applying, and details of previous visits to the country. A visitor may also be required to undergo and pass security and/or health checks upon arrival at the border. Visas are associated with the request for permission to enter or exit a country and are thus, for some countries, distinct from actual formal permission for an alien to enter and remain in the country. Some countries require that their citizens and sometimes foreign travelers obtain an exit visa in order to be allowed to leave the country. History. Visas were not generally necessary before World War I, 1914 to 1918, but have since become standard, even while the initial fears of spying ceased with the end of the war. Conditions of issue. Some visas can be granted on arrival or by prior application at the country's embassy or consulate, or through a private visa service specialized in the issuance of international travel documents. These agencies are authorized by the foreign authority, embassy or consulate to represent international travelers who are unable or unwilling to travel to the embassy and apply in person. Private visa and passport services collect an additional fee for verifying customer applications, supporting documents, and submitting them to the appropriate authority. Some countries apply the principle of reciprocity in their visa policy. A country's visa policy is called reciprocal if it imposes visa requirement against citizens of all the countries which impose visa requirements against its own citizens. Some examples of countries that apply reciprocity in their visa policy are United States, European Union. Although they have not reached full reciprocity for some of EU citizens in some countries, Russia, Brazil. A fee may be charged for issuing a visa. These are often also reciprocal. So, if country A charges country B's citizens $50 for a visa, country B will often also charge the same amount for country A's visitors. The fee charged may also be at the discretion of each embassy. A similar reciprocity often applies to the duration of the visa, the period in which one is permitted to request entry of the country, and the amount of entries one can attempt with the visa. Expedited processing of the visa application for some countries will generally incur additional charges. This reciprocal fee has gained prominence in recent years with resentment by some countries of the United States charging nationals of various countries a visa processing fee, $140 for tourist visas, non-refundable even if a visa is not issued. A number of countries, including Brazil, Chile and Turkey, have reciprocated. Brazil requires an advance visa before entry into the country and that a US citizen be fingerprinted and photographed on arrival, matching US requirements for Brazilians and other foreigners. The issuing authority, usually a branch of the country's foreign ministry or department, example Ministry of External Affairs of India, and typically consular affairs officers, may request appropriate documentation from the applicant. This may include proof that the applicant is able to support himself in the host country, lodging, food, proof that the person hosting the applicant in his or her home really exists and has sufficient room for hosting the applicant, proof that the applicant has obtained health and evacuation insurance, etc. Some countries ask for proof of health status, especially for long-term visas. Some countries deny such visas to persons with certain illnesses, such as AIDS. The exact conditions depend on the country and category of visa. Developed countries frequently demand strong evidence of intent to return to the home country if the visa is for a temporary stay, and especially if the applicant is from a developing country due to immigration concerns. The issuing authority may also require applicants to attest that they have had no criminal convictions or that they do not partake in illegal activities. Some countries will deny visas if the traveler's passports show evidence of citizenship or travel to a country which is not recognized by that country. For example, some Muslim countries will not issue visas to nationals of Israel or those whose passports bear evidence of visiting Israel. Types and methods of visa. Each country has a multitude of categories of visas and with various names. The most common types and names of visas include by purpose, transit visa, for passing through the country to a destination outside that country. Validity of transit visas are usually limited by short terms such as 1 to 10 days, depending on the size of the country and/or the circumstances of a particular travel itinerary. Airside transit visa, required by some countries for passing through their airports even without going through immigration clearance. Private visa, for private visits by invitation of residents of the country. Tourist visa, for a limited period of leisure travel, no business activities allowed. Business visa, for engaging in commerce in the country. These visas generally preclude permanent employment, for which a work visa would be required. Student visa, which allows its holder to study at an institution of higher learning in the issuing country. Students studying in Algeria, however, are issued tourist visas. Working holiday visa for individuals traveling between nations, offering a working holiday program, allowing young people to undertake temporary work while traveling. Temporary worker visa for approved employment in the host country. These are generally more difficult to obtain but valid for longer periods of time than a business visa. Examples of these are the United States H-1B and L-1 visas. Spousal visa or partner visa granted to the spouse, civil partner or de facto partner of a resident or citizen of a given country in order to enable the couple to settle in that country. Marriage visa granted for a limited period prior to intended marriage or civil partnership based on a proven relationship with a citizen of the destination country. For example, a German woman who wishes to marry an American man would obtain a fiancé visa, also known as a K-1 visa, to allow her to enter the United States. A K-1 fiancé visa is valid for 4 months from the date of its approval. Immigrant visa granted for those intending to immigrate to the issuing country. They usually are issued for a single journey, as the holder will, depending on the country, later be issued a permanent resident identification card, which will allow the traveler to enter into the issuing country an unlimited number of times. For example, the United States Permanent Resident Card. Pensioner visa, also known as retiree visa or retirement visa, issued by a limited number of countries: Australia, Argentina, Thailand, Panama, etc., to those who can demonstrate a foreign source of income and who do not intend to work in the issuing country. Age limits apply in some cases. Diplomatic visa, sometimes official visa, is only available to bearers of diplomatic passports. Courtesy visa, issued to representatives of foreign governments or international organizations who do not qualify for diplomatic status but do merit expedited, courteous treatment. An example of this is Australia's Special Purpose Visa. Journalist visa, which some countries require of people in that occupation when traveling for their respective news organizations. Countries which insist on this include Cuba, Iran, North Korea, Saudi Arabia, the United States, I-Visa, and Zimbabwe. By method of issuance: on-arrival visa, also known as Visa on Arrival (VOA), granted at a port of entry. This is distinct from not requiring a visa at all, as the visitor must still obtain the visa before they can even try to pass through immigration. Electronic visa. The visa is stored in a computer and is electronically tied to the passport number. No label, sticker or stamp is placed in the passport prior to travel. Australia pioneered electronic visa issuance with the Electronic Travel Authority for tourists. Recent changes in immigration law mean that almost all visas, including those for permanent residency, are issued electronically by default, unless a label is required. For example, to board an aeroplane. New Zealand is now also issuing some visas electronically. The United States has a similar internet system called Electronic System for Travel Authorization, but this is a security pre-screening only and does not technically qualify as a visa under US immigration law. Entry and duration period. Visas can also be single entry, which means the visa is cancelled as soon as the holder leaves the country. Double entry or multiple entry, which permits double or multiple entries into the country with the same visa. Countries may also issue re-entry permits that allow temporarily leaving the country without invalidating the visa. Even a business visa will normally not allow the holder to work in the host country without an additional work permit. Once issued, a visa will typically have to be used within a certain period of time. With some countries, the validity of a visa is not the same as the authorized period of stay. The visa validity then indicates the time period when entry is permitted into the country. For example, if a visa has been issued to begin January 1 and to expire March 30th, and the typical authorized period of stay in a country is 90 days, then the 90-day authorized stay starts on the day the passenger enters the country. Entrance has to be between January 1 and March 30. Thus, the latest day the traveler could conceivably stay in the issuing country is July 1, if the traveler entered on March 30th. This interpretation of visas is common in Americas. With other countries, a person may not stay beyond the period of validity of their visa. The visa may also limit the total number of days the visitor may spend in the covered territory within the period of validity. This interpretation of visas is common in Europe. Once in the country, the validity period of a visa or authorized stay can often be extended for a fee at the discretion of immigration authorities. Overstaying a period of authorized stay given by the immigration officers is considered illegal immigration, even if the visa validity period isn't over, that is, for multiple entry visas, and a form of being out of status, and the offender may be fined, prosecuted, deported, or even blacklisted from entering the country again. Entering a country without a valid visa or visa exemption may result in detention and removal, deportation or exclusion from the country. Undertaking activities that are not authorized by the status of entry, for example, working while possessing a non-worker tourist status, can result in the individual being deemed deportable, commonly referred to as an illegal alien. Such violation is not a violation of a visa, despite the common misuse of the phrase, but a violation of status, hence the term out of status. Even having a visa does not guarantee entry to the host country. The border crossing authorities make the final determination to allow entry and may even cancel a visa at the border if the alien cannot demonstrate to their satisfaction that they will abide by the status their visa grants them. Some countries which do not require visas for short stays may require a long stay visa for those who intend to apply for a residence permit. For example, EU does not require a visa for many industrialized countries for stays under 90 days, but its members require a long stay visa for longer stays. Visa extensions, refusals and exemptions. Many countries have a mechanism to allow the holder of a visa to apply to extend a visa. For example, in Denmark, a visa holder can apply to the Danish Immigration Service for a residence permit after they have arrived in the country. In the United Kingdom, applications can be made to the UK Border Agency. In certain circumstances, it is not possible for the holder of the visa to do this, either because the country does not have a mechanism to prolong visas or, most likely, because the holder of the visa is using a short-stay visa to live in a country. In such cases, the holder often engages in what is known as a visa run, leaving the country for a short period just before the allowed length of stay runs out to restart the clock. However, immigration officers can also deny re-entry under these circumstances, especially if done more than once, as such acts may signify that the foreigner wishes to permanently reside or work in that country. Also, some countries may have limits as to how long one can spend in the country without a visa, further creating a barrier to visa runs. Visa refusal. A visa may be denied for a number of reasons, some of which being that the applicant has committed fraud or misrepresentation in his or her application, has a criminal record or has criminal charges pending, is considered to be a threat to national security, cannot prove to have strong ties to their current country of residence, intends to reside or work permanently in the country she or he will visit, if not applying for an immigrant or work visa respectively, does not have a legitimate reason for the journey, has no visible means of sustenance, does not have travel arrangements, that is, transport and lodging in the destination country, does not have a health or travel insurance valid for the destination and the duration of stay, does not have a good moral character, is applying on excessively short notice, had their previous visa applications rejected, and cannot prove that the reasons for the previous denials no longer exist or are not applicable anymore, is a citizen of a country with whom the host country has poor or non-existent relations, has a communicable disease such as tuberculosis, has previous visa immigration violations, has a passport that expires too soon, didn't use a previously issued visa at all without a valid reason, example, a trip cancellation due to a family emergency, fails to demonstrate intent to return for non-immigrants, has previously visited or intends to visit a country that has poor or non-existent relations with the destination country, such as Israel or Cuba. Visa exemption agreements. Possession of a valid visa is a condition for entry into many countries. However, various exemption schemes do exist. In some cases, visa-free entry may be granted to holders of diplomatic passports, even as visas are required by normal passport holders. Some countries have reciprocal agreements such that a visa is not needed under certain conditions. Example, when the visit is for tourism and for a relatively short period. Such reciprocal agreements may stem from common membership in international organizations or a shared heritage. Nepal and India allow their citizens to enter, live and work in each other's countries due to the Indo-Nepal Friendship Treaty of 1951. Also, Indians do not require a visa or passport to travel to Bhutan and are only required to obtain passes at the border checkpoints. Some of the considerations for a country to grant visa-free entry to another country include, but are not limited to, being a low security risk for the country, potentially granting visa-free entry, diplomatic relationship between two countries, economic conditions in the alien's home country as compared to the host country, having a low risk of overstaying or violating visa terms in the country potentially granting visa-free entry. Visa-free travel between countries also occurs in all cases where passports are not needed for such travel. As of August 2010, the Henley Visa Restriction Index ranks the United Kingdom passport as the passport with the most visa exemptions by other nations, totaling 166, allowing holders of a British passport to take part in the most visa-free travel globally. Common visas and exit visa. Normally, visas are valid for entry only into the country which issued the visa. Countries that are members of regional organizations or party to regional agreements may, however, issue visas valid for entry into some or all of the member states of the organization or agreement. The Schengen visa covers most of the European Union, plus several other adjacent countries. The visa allows a tourist or visitor access to the area covered by the agreement, known as the Schengen area or Schengen land, currently consisting of 26 countries. Those who require a visa to enter the Schengen area are simply required to get only the common Schengen visa from the embassy or consulate of any of the Schengen countries. After this, they may visit any or all of the Schengen countries as tourists or for business. They are not required to get separate visas for all the Schengen countries they wish to visit. Exit visas. Some countries have a requirement that an individual obtain an exit visa, that is, permit to leave the country. This happens mostly in countries where there is political, economic or social turmoil that results in a rise in emigration. Sometimes this requirement also applies to foreign nationals. Saudi Arabia and Qatar have an exit visa requirement, particularly for foreign workers. Hence, at the end of a foreign worker's employment period, the worker must secure clearance from his or her employer, stating that the worker has satisfactorily fulfilled the terms of his or her employment contract, or that the worker's services are no longer needed. The exit visa can also be withheld if there are pending court charges that need to be settled or penalties that have to be meted out. The communist government in Nepal requires citizens leaving the country to work abroad to present an exit visa issued by the Labour Ministry. This document is called a labour permit and needs to be presented to immigration in order to leave the country. Some countries, such as Russia or Czech Republic, require that an alien who needs a visa on entry be in possession of a valid visa upon exit. To satisfy this formal requirement, exit visas need sometimes to be issued.
Remember, visa is an important document or endorsement on a passport for travel in and out of a country. While applying for it, you should always provide the correct information of the person traveling. Any false information submitted would lead to severe legal action depending on the country. Similarly, when you travel out of a country after your visit, make sure your passport is marked with an exit stamp with the date and time. Otherwise, re-entry into the country or region would be difficult when you want to travel back to the same place. I hope this session has enlightened you on the various types and rules of visas followed worldwide. Thank you.